Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for the fourth and final issue of Sonic the Hedgehog Imposter Syndrome. When we last left our heroes, Surge and Kit had hacked into Starline's video log database and learned the truth about themselves. That they have no pasts is the important, or that Starline has not kept any record about their past. That he plans to use them for his own purposes, and he doesn't really care about who they are as people. They have no reason for hating Sonic and the gang. They've just been manipulated this entire time. Starline catches them in the act. And we find out they've done this before, repeatedly. But each time, Starline has been able to hypnotize them again and start the cycle over again. But at this point, Sarge and Kid are just too strong for him, and are able to steal his tricore and end up hypnotizing him in turn, to forgetting this entire encounter. And while Starline is still knocked out post-hypnosis, Surge comes to a new goal. That if they don't get to know their past, if they will never find out who they were, the rest of the world doesn't get a future. They're going to burn it all down. Sonic, Eggman, Starline, the whole thing. But to do that, they pretend to be back on Starline's side and ready for their final confrontation with Eggman, that I imagine will end up leading us right into issue 50. So with that said, let's dive right on in. Our cover here, though, sort of teases the beginning of the fight that issue 50 was setting up. I imagine that this issue would end chronologically at the same time that 49 ended, with the battle of the base already ongoing, Sonic and Tails on their way in. Maybe they just arrive as the cliffhanger or something. But this implies the battle is already started by the time this issue ends. Or maybe it's just a fun little cover, who knows. Either way, we have our story so far about Surge and Kit's training, their initial battle back in issue 2, and then Surge deciding she's going to burn it all down. Her and Kit working out their counter strategy. We have our roll call of Starline, Surge, and Kit, which this part does imply that Sonic won't be an important part of this issue. The battle won't start until issue 50. Anyway, we start with a flashback, though. Early into the Metal Virus plague, we see the face ship dropping Metal Virus all over the world, and Starline, still in Eggman's good graces, asks him, "May I ask a question about your methods, sir?" "You may." "Why all the theme parks?" And Eggman's just simple, "I like theme parks." "Good for you, Eggman." "Yes, but they aren't remotely practical. All that time, all those resources, could be used more economically." But Eggman counters, "I don't settle for the world as it is, Doctor. I make it what I want it to be. If I want my enemies' last moments to be carousel music and the smell of petroleum-based cotton candy, that's what I'll make happen." That's just a good fucking line right there. We stand a king. And Starline, still, blinded by Eggman's brilliance, comments, "Words to live by, sir." And then we cut to the present, and Starline thinks, "And no less inspiring, even after all that's happened." And we cut to moments where their raid is about to begin. "Tonight is the beginning of the end. Dr. Eggman's wasteful ways, Sonic's endless feudal war with him. The sun will rise on a new era, one where we control the narrative. We will guide the people of this world out of their complacency. Today begins my glorious new age of chaos and transformation." So I talked a lot in the main series about the way that the comic seems to be in some ways addressing the fact that it's set up to never end. Amy's frustration at the end of the Metal Virus, that this will just go on forever, this never-ending cycle of conflict. And Starline is also kind of in that vein too, almost. The way he describes Sonic as an endless feudal war with Eggman. It's interesting, and I'm curious if Ian Flynn has any plans to tie this all together, either in issue 50 or beyond. It's the sort of thing that could carry the series, inherently for a long time. Anyway, Starline turns to Surge. "Surge?" And Surge shoots him a thumbs up. "Let's do it, Doc." "Kitsunami?" And Kit salutes. "Ready, sir." And he activates the speed part of the tricore. "Then let us begin." And they all dash into the battle. Starline now in flight mode, jumping over badniks. Surge busting them. We see a monkey badnik about to like throw a bomb down at Surge, and Kit grabs it in his water tails and yeets it into the badnik's little cubby hole. We see this giant sort of egg berserker sort of thing. I don't remember that's what that bot is called. But slams his hammer down right between the three of our guys. They all manage to avoid the hit, but Surge just goes right on the attack, right at the thing. Starline grabs something from it, and with Kit like having bound the badnik's arm so it can't reach up to defend itself, Surge finishes her spin dash right into the badnik's head. And Starline dashes off into like a control room and tells his so-called servants, keep drawing their fire while I upload the override program. And Kit tells them, yes, sir. And then Kit and Surge ready to begin their real plan. Or no, maybe still, I think they're still following Starline's plan at this point. Because Kit says, we must make enough of a distraction so that Dr. Eggman doesn't realize his systems are being compromised. And Surge tells him, my issues with Starlane aside, I do like this part of the plan. Unrestrained, wanton destruction. Grab on, Drippy. And we see Kit is wrapped his water tails around Surge. And Surge runs to cause more mayhem as Kit is like holding on for dear life. And Kit asks, it is all right we're using Dr. Starline's plan against him, right? But Surge tells him, every dirty deed we do today is every dirty deed we do today is justified, little man. The only person you should ever be loyal to. And we see this sort of mole-like badnik come out. And it seems for a moment there that like Surge is going to do some sort of like ode to selfishness. But she still sort of sees Kit as like an extension of herself. Only person you should ever be loyal to is me. And she grabs Kit and throws him into the mole. And Kit like spins around with his water tails to decapitate it. Which is just a good bit. And then we cut to Orbot and Cubot. As Cubot asks Orbot, do you think the boss will be mad we've been on vacation without asking permission? Which ties back to the end of Test Run. I had forgotten they did that in Test Run. And Orbot tells him, I say we have 50-50 odds he didn't notice we were gone. If he didn't, we're in the clear. And Cubot questions, and if he did, then it's been nice knowing you, pal. It's good to see them back. They're always fun. And Eggman calls out to them, where have you been? And Cubot tries to like defend himself. Oh, just getting a little R&R. And Orbot like elbows him and takes over. What he means is, we were conducting reconnaissance and more reconnaissance. That's just a good line. And Eggman looks at them, clearly untrusting. Whatever. Just log back into the network and get me a sit rep. I'm getting reports Sonic and Tails are making a mess. Oh, if only you knew, Eggman. It ain't Sonic and Tails right now. And Orbot logs back in and tells him, this is curious. The battle data matches Sonic's and Tails' profiles, but the details are incongruent. And Eggman questions, what are you yammering on about? Pulling up a visual now, boss. And on the screen, we see Sergeant Kit making their destructive path through the base, as Eggman wonders, who in the world are these two? And Orbot tells him they're not on file, and the security algorithms can't agree whether they're Sonic and Tails or not. But Eggman pushes all that aside. What's important here is they're wrecking my stuff. I have just the thing to deal with pesky speedsters and their bratty companions, though. And before we find out what that is, we cut back to Surge and Kit. As Surge is holding on the decapitated head of one of those caterpillar badniks. This is the best Eggman has to offer. Only reason Sonic hasn't won is because he clearly isn't trying. And then, just the fucking thing there. That's Metal Sonic, who's just grabbed Surge. And Surge grins, finally, a challenge. And she goes to this circle kick on Metal Sonic, who jumps out of the way. Metal Sonic slashes it at Surge but misses, and then grabs Surge's foot, I think, and just whacks her into the ground. But he lets go. Surge gets into a spinball. But then Metal Sonic creates this little like diamond shield thing. I forget what that's called. And it knocks Surge back. She calls to Kit, "Support me, Kit." I am. Very like an emotional sense for Kit. And Surge snaps, "In the fight, stupid." But now Metal Sonic and Surge are going at each other again. And Surge asked, "You want to be the real Sonic?" Which is interesting, because both of these two are, in their own way, Sonic doppelgangers. Interesting thing there. But they clash, holding on to each other, pushing each other back. "You ain't got the heart. You ain't got the soul." And Metal Sonic, takes a moment to just slam into Surge's chest. She falls over, and Metal Sonic is about to give another attack, but his arm is wrapped up in a water tail. And Surge looks up, and "You ain't got the backup." That's a badass line. Surge is absolutely, heavily abusive to our poor Kit. She's a villain to get away with that shit, But, that line right there is so fucking cool. The "you ain't got the backup" line. That's just good. Not that it really does much, because Metal Sonic uses the water tail wrapped around his hand to slam Kit into the ground. But that gives Surge the time to get away and whack Metal Sonic with a spin dash. And as Metal Sonic reaches for Surge, more of Kit's tails come out and start to swallow him. "Nice catch! Drown him!" And Surge, or Kit, now with this, powerful gleam in his eye, has, caught Metal Sonic in this, water prison. As Surge starts this, lightning tornado up. And as she sort of gets all this electric energy in her hands, I think, she just throws it at Metal Sonic, shocking him. And he falls to the ground, defeated. And Surge gives one last taunting little line to Metal Sonic. "You're never going to be Sonic, because I'm going to replace him. And you're not even good enough to be my fake." I got that reference. She just knocked Metal Sonic aside. Which, going back to that sense of this is a clash between Sonic doppelgangers, calling back to that, initial clash between Sonic and Shadow in SA2 is really interesting. I don't know. I feel like there's something to really dig into there. I'm not quite sure what I'm not exactly sure how best to make the comparison between Sonic and Shadow and Surge and Metal Sonic. But it's an interesting callback. And it might be as simple as, remember that iconic line in SA2. But it does feel a little important there. Either way, she turns to Kit. "How's your head?" Which is actually, one of the closest things to concern she's shown for Kit this whole time. But Kit just tells her, "Fine, I'm happy to help in any way." And Surge tells him, "We're gonna get along just fine, kid." And Eggman, back in his room, is outraged. "How dare you! Sonic's victories are bad enough, but at least you show some respect." Is that a word we're going to use to describe Sonic? Respectful of Eggman? There are many things we can say about Sonic. That's not really one of them. And then Cubot interrupts him. "Boss, I just noticed there's a weird log in..." And then we see, this video chat starts between Starline and Eggman. "Dr. Starline? Salutations, sir. Surprised by my return? Is this the first Eggman has heard of Starline since 25? I don't think he was aware of Starline's involvement in the Bad Guys incident. He might have been, but I don't think so. Or what happened in Child Races and Badnik Bases, or his invasion of the Restoration Base in Zeddy Hunt. I don't think Eggman's been aware that Starline's done anything since issue 25. Anyway, salutations, sir. Surprised on my return. And we have this close-up of a Starline-branded USB port that he's using to, upload this override program. But Eggman tells him, "No, just the manner of it. You're supposed to come back bowing and scraping for daring to sass me. Not skulking around one of my servers, and as the program nears completion, Eggman asks, "What are you doing?" And Starline just tells him, back to sassing him, "Succeeding you, sir." And with that, the override signal is sent out. Oh, and this ties into the opening of 49. Because we see the same program from Wound Up over all of the badniks, including Motobot over at Tails' house. We see Sonic asleep there, tying into the early moments of 49. And Surge and Kit look around the controlled badniks. And it also affects Orbot and Cubot. As Orbot says, "You're to be confined to quarters, old boss." And Cubot, "The master commands it." And Eggman looms over them and just fucking knocks them out. No threat. He's not sitting this battle out. And Eggman gets back on his throne, not quite realizing, I think, that the Egg Pawns are also all brainwashed. Or maybe he does. The Egg Pawns loom for him, and he opens this little hole in the floor, and he just jumps down it. That's just a funny visual. I'm sorry. Then we cut back to the base, as Starline is being, like, heralded out of the control room on a throne of Egg Pawn hands. It's a really funny visual there. And Surge asks him, "Is it everything you hoped it would be, Doc?" "Bittersweet, as I imagined. But we have only begun. Onward, to my new seat of power." Okay, so they were at, like, the same base that Eggman was in, this whole battle. Eggman was, like, in the vicinity. Because they just walk right back to where Eggman was, as we see Orbot and Cubot are here, presenting Starline with Eggman's throne. And Starline sort of feels it up, and Orbot tells him, "Welcome, new boss. Your wish is our command." And Starline sits down, "Transmit the override code across the Eggnet. Bring every badnik in my Starline empire to me." He is loving this whole, rise of villainy thing. Sonic will surely notice, undoubtedly intervene, and we cut to what we saw in Wound Up of Sonic, Tails, and Bell chasing Motobot, and then be confronted and replaced. And we see Surge and Kit waiting for their battle. This is how it's done. Patience, planning, and preparation. Every variable accounted for and controlled. Tonight, my meal is victory. So he turns to Orbot and Cubot. Like, he realizes that something's kind of wrong with them. And asks, "What happened to you?" And Cubot tells him, "Eggman squashed me before escaping." Which, like... Oh, yeah, you're right. I missed that in that earlier panel. Cubot, and back on the previous page, Cubot is, like, squished. Orbot is back at his full height, but Cubot is still a little... Just a cube, not a bot. And Orbot's helping him up here. Eggman squashed me before escaping. Escaped? Where? His personal chute to the memorial garage. The display museum hasn't been finished yet. And Starline comments, perfectly manageable thanks to my previous planning. Whatever he uses will be taken over once he goes online. Send a detachment to gently take him into custody." And we're seeing there that, like, Starline still is kind of doing this in his own mind for Eggman. This is to make Eggman see the error of his ways. We're not going to kill him. We're going to, like, make him realize that my way is right. And then, is his plan still to, like, hand the throne over to Eggman in the end? Because the way he talks about my Starline Empire makes me a little bit skeptical of that idea. It doesn't seem like that's what he's doing anymore. Either way, he sees these, like, giant mechs. Eggman, we're with Eggman in the garage. "I thought I'd have time to refurbish all of these. Oh well." And he gets in. "This one will have to do." And all systems full power is ready to go. But I don't think it's going to work out too well for him in the end. And Surge looks down, watching all of these badniks ready to defend against Sonic. Meh, I could take him. And Kit looks in the sky where all the flying badniks are coming in. Oh, hold on. I read this like a fucking manga. That's an incredible number of badniks. And then Surge says, "Meh, I could take him. That's on me. Sometimes the weeb comes out a little too hard." But Surge then says, "Once we smoke Starline and the others, I'll get you to reprogram them all to self-destruct." Well, half. I want to smash some. Most. We'll figure it out. So we're seeing they're getting ready for their plan. That, like, once this is done, we're destroying the badniks, we're destroying everything. There will be nothing for Eggman or Starline or anyone to repair after we're done. Total annihilation. And Kit presses about that. How will we handle Sonic? But Surge tells him, I handle Sonic. You handle Tails. But if the egomaniac comes in solo, we'll handle him like Metal Sonic. Excuse me. But if he's got the brat in tow, it's your job to keep him from distracting me. Once the heroes and doctors are done, we're free to play it by ear. Hunt down all their little friends. Topple every stupid city that threw them a parade. Tear it all down. Just you and me, kid. Sound good? And Kit tells her, I can't wait. Next time, Sonic and Tails versus Surge and Kit in Sonic the Hedgehog number 50. So that actually does, like, initially, it seemed like they were going to maybe take out, the Eggman Empire, Starline, the Badniks, Sonic the Restoration. But they want full, destroy the world. Everything ends. All of civilization falls. We've had it. It's very nihilistic. It's very sort of, fuck all of you. Fuck everything. And I'm curious how the storyline is going to end. Because, a part of me can see, they have their hatred of Starline and Eggman, but they don't actually know Sonic. They have this idea of Sonic that Starline has given them, and even if they're aware their burning hatred of him is programmed, they still don't actually have any basis for who Sonic is beyond themselves, and it is an interesting thing about them. So we'll actually have to see next time if maybe meeting Sonic creates something of a redemption arc for them? I don't know. I don't think we can quite give them a redemption arc in a single issue or anything, so we'll see what comes of that. Still, all in all, this is an interesting issue. Because if we look at it as the finale of Imposter Syndrome, I'd argue it doesn't really work. There's no conclusion here. There's no... there's barely a climax. We get, from an action standpoint, we have the fight with Metal Sonic, and we also have Starline's sort of usurpation of Eggman. But, that doesn't really feel like the climax of this story. This whole story has been building to... This whole miniseries has been building to this clash. And I understand from a, objective standpoint that the story was never meant to end in Imposter Syndrome. It was always building to issue 50. But if we look at this as 49.5 or something, then it works really well. But looking at it as the end of Imposter Syndrome doesn't quite work. It's not... There's nothing bad here. It's a great issue. Especially knowing that the story will be continued in, 6 weeks. Again, going to be a long wait to see how this saga comes to its conclusion. But, it leaves Imposter... Bad Guys and Tangle and Whisper both felt like relatively complete tales. Tangle and Whisper felt complete. Bad Guys felt mostly complete. It was also building into the reveal at the end of CRABB, of course. But it felt like the end of Bad Guys was the end of the story. The end of the story arc that now ties into the main story. This does not feel like that. This is one part of, the story that issue 50 will wrap up. Which is fine. It's great. But also, as Imposter Syndrome, from an objective standpoint, it's a little funky there. It's the fact that Imposter Syndrome doesn't really work on its own. Imposter Syndrome, more than the others, is a side story to... Or not really a side story, but, the other side of the main storyline. I couldn't really... Sorry, I've had a bad cough for a while. I can't really see Imposter Syndrome working on its own. It always sort of will need to be bundled with the past several issues. Bundled with Trial by Fire through to issue 50. As opposed to Tangle and Whisper and Bad Guys that were both sort of their own story arcs. Interesting thing, but not at all a bad thing. I'm harping on a complaint that's just really not a complaint. I'm not complaining or anything. But the issue is still fun. I love seeing Orbot and Cubot again. They're delights. The fight with Metal Sonic is a lot of fun. It's a little bit of a shame Metal Sonic, started this series as sort of a big bad, and now he's a silent fighter. It's whatever, it is what it is. But, he was the threat for a while. And I forget if, Eggman actively, took that personality out of him. I forget. He might have, given, I doubt he wants his servant to turn into a fuck-all dragon and take over the world again. But still, it leads to a great little one-liner from Surge calling back to SA2. And then we have that Starline and Eggman scene, which is filled with good lines. But now, everything is in place for one big climactic battle. Eggman is about to get recaptured, it seems like. Sonic is right outside the gate. Surge and Kid are ready to fight him and Tails. We'll see. There's an interesting thought, actually. Because Surge and Kit's personality matrix comes from Belle. And Belle is on her way here, too. So how could that tie into how this whole storyline resolves? We'll see. We all know how much Evan Stanley loves Belle, and like she's right too. Belle's a great character. But all in all, it's really hard to say, what. Let me rephrase. I can't really say anything until this is all over. Until next issue comes out, everything is we'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out. So with that said, I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you'll enjoy the issue in the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe, or, do whatever makes you happy, And as always, your life is your own, okay? Bye!